What's the difference between sex assigned at birth and gender? Many people use the terms sex and gender interchangeably, but in fact, these are two separate characteristics. At birth, a child is usually assigned a sex according to the body parts with which that child is born. Gender is a broader term that includes a person's internal sense of who they are. That's called their gender identity, and most children are aware of their gender identity pretty early on in childhood. The term gender also includes the way in which people express their identity by way of how they choose to dress and present themselves to others. In any society, ideas about what's considered acceptable gender expression change over time. In Western society today, not many people would be shocked to see a woman wearing pants or a man wearing an earring. This probably wasn't the case 100 years ago. As a society, we seem to be a little more accepting of sex-assigned girls who also identify as girls, but they prefer to dress and act in ways that are considered typically boyish. Interestingly, our society is still less accepting of sex-assigned boys who identify as boys, but choose to express themselves in ways that our society considers girlish. Many children whose gender identity and their sex assigned at birth are aligned will choose to dress or act in ways that don't conform to traditional gender roles. But even though we've become more comfortable with a more expansive view of gender expression, the general understanding of gender identity in our society has been that there are only two choices, male or female, and that they should match or align with a child's sex assigned at birth. Today, that's changing. More and more, scientists, healthcare professionals, and people in the general public are beginning to recognize that gender identity may be better understood as a characteristic that exists across a spectrum, like many other human characteristics, and that gender identity and sex assigned at birth don't always align. If we start to think about gender identity as a spectrum, and we remember that this is a characteristic that's separate from a person's sex assigned at birth, then it begins to make sense that in some cases, a person's gender identity and the label they're given at birth might not be oriented in the same direction. A child whose sex assigned at birth aligns with their gender identity, which is the more common case scenario, is sometimes called cisgender. When a child's sex assigned at birth doesn't align with their gender identity, and this is the less common case, this is called transgender. The prefixes cis and trans come from organic chemistry, where a cis molecule is a molecule with two functional groups oriented in the same direction. In a trans molecule, the functional groups are oriented away from one another. Understanding gender identity as a characteristic that's separate from a person's sex assigned at birth and one that exists across a spectrum is a much more inclusive way of looking at the world around us. It creates space for diversity and allows all of our children the chance to be celebrated and loved for who they truly are, regardless of where they fall on the gender spectrum. As a society, we try to protect human rights, especially the rights of our children. Imagine a world where all children have the right to be loved and accepted, regardless of their gender identity and whether or not it aligns with the sex they were assigned at birth. You may not realize it, but by watching this video, you've already started to build that kind of a world.